Rahim here with Eddie Hearn, the biggest heavyweight championship fight in quite some time. We're going to be at Wembley Stadium. Anthony Joshua is looking to unify and collect some vacated titles from Klitschko. And this fight has taken so long, it seems, to finally come together. We didn't know if it was going to be Klitschko-Fury rematch, how long Joshua was going to have to wait, and then it seemed like magic happened, and all of a sudden everything lined up. Is that how it felt for you, or did it feel as long in the tooth as it did for me?
No, there was, these guys nearly fought in December, but it was very rushed. An opportunity arose. We were waiting for some sanctioning, and, it didn't quite feel right. We were like 7 weeks out. The plan was Manchester Arena, and I was like, this would be a great event for Wembley next spring, summer. So we boxed Molina. We got the WBA sanction for the title, and now it's on. April 29th. We're just, 3 days away now from the biggest event in British boxing history. So we can't wait. It's a 50-50 fight. I truly believe that. And the whole country will stop on Saturday night to watch this fight. Trust me when I say the build-up is going to another level. Press conference tomorrow. Weigh-in on Friday. This is going to be a huge event. As
you mentioned, you were willing to do this at Manchester Arena, which is a lovely place, a lovely town. I've been there, but it's much smaller. It was only 7 weeks out, but that's how keen Joshua was to have this fight. You say it's a 50-50 fight. I know that's a good thing to say. Does Joshua believe as much, or does he believe that the young man himself may dusting off the old lion?
I believe Joshua's going to win the fight. He believes he's going to win, but he also knows that, let's look at the levels that he's boxed at before. And Vladimir Klitschko is well beyond those levels, so you can't ignore that. This is Anthony Joshua's 19th professional fight. This is Vladimir Klitschko's 29th consecutive world title fight. So everybody seems to be saying if it goes early, it's Joshua. If it goes late, it's Klitschko. And I think certainly the longer the fight goes on, the more it will work to the more experienced man's favour. I don't care how it comes.
As long as
it comes.
Listen, we've got a heavyweight title on the line, and when that happens, and there's a guy like Joshua who's collecting, I'm seeing him on billboards everywhere, on my water bottles, like he's on the athletic apparel. He's got a target on his back. Yeah. Everybody wants to be that guy. So we've got heavyweights coming out of the woodworks, challenging him, calling him out, saying anything to get attention off of the shine of this fight. But Tyson Fury, being the guy whose titles that have been vacated we're fighting for, probably has some skin in the game, right? Maybe still. What do you feel, first of all, about what he's been saying about Joshua all along, and then saying he's coming back and then pulling out of the Parker challenge?
Well, I don't think, if you're dealing with Tyson Fury, first of all, there's no one who wants to see him back in the game more than myself and Anthony Joshua. It's one of the biggest money fights out there, and we really fancy the fight. You can't call a guy out when you're in his position. When you're ready to fight, when you're good to go, when your licenses are intact, when you've got no suspensions over your head, let's do it. No problem. Trust me, Anthony Joshua will be the first person to put his hands up for that fight. Hughie Fury, he was offered the opportunity to fight Anthony Joshua for a lot of money. He got even more money to fight Joseph Parker and pulled out of that fight as well. So we've got to keep concentrating on our business, things that we can control. Because one thing I said to Anthony Joshua was, a long time ago, I will not let anything get in the way of your progression. That means people, that means belts, that means politics, that means broadcasters. And if you look at Joshua's career today, it has been absolutely stage by stage perfection. Now we're gambling, so anything can happen. But it's fun to gamble, and it's great to gamble when everything's on the line. Multiple belts, and actually I think the status of the biggest star in world boxing. That is what Anthony Joshua becomes if he wins on Saturday night.
To your credit, he's taken the right fights at the right time, and you can't say it's been an easy path because it's been quite choice. He's, taken titles from guys who have been legitimate belt holders. This being his greatest challenge, and knowing that fighters don't like to look ahead, but promoters have to, Deontay Wilder went so far as to hold a conference call, mini press conference, about Joshua and his thoughts on this fight, and then of course the prospect of the two of them getting together. Is the timing right on the heels of this fight, assuming that was successful in what you want to happen on Saturday night? Do you immediately go into a Wilder fight, or does Joshua take a little tour of other, opportunities?
It's always our job to look at the next move. Honestly, because of the size of this fight, that's not really something that I've done to a huge extent. The Deontay Wilder fight makes sense. The Joseph Parker fight makes sense. If Tyson Fury come back, that would make sense. So if the Klitschko fight's unbelievable, that could happen again. You know, all these fights count. Deontay Wilder's ringside. I believe after this fight, like I said, Joshua's going to be the biggest star in world boxing. If he becomes as big as he should do in America, that fight can be really sizable, here or there. So we certainly embrace a potential Deontay Wilder fight, but at this stage, going into a fight like this, really, honestly, the focus is just on Saturday night.
I've heard Joshua say and been quoted as saying he doesn't ever need to fight in America. I was rather shocked to hear that. Were you shocked, and what are your thoughts?
No, he's right, because the money's here, yeah. Unless he's a pay-per-view fighter in America, there's much more money in the UK. I believe he can become a pay-per-view fighter in America, but we've got to build him. This is a perfect fight to build him. It's also on Showtime and HBO, you know, which is unique in itself. It's only happened twice before, Lewis against Tyson and Pacquiao against Mayweather, so it shows you the kind of company you're in. But yeah, you know, I think that Joshua is happy fighting in the UK, and whilst we can maximise the money, why not? I do want to take him into other markets. That could be America, that could be Africa, that could be the Middle East, Far East. And I believe when you're talking about a guy who's got 10 years of his career left, potentially, you know, we can't just box here for 10 years. We've got to mix it up, we've got to go to new markets, and, you know, we've got to make history.
You mentioned a lot of markets there, but ever is a mighty big word. And we know, yeah, you're right, the purses are here right now, but when you make it in America, you do make it globally in that sense.
No, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong.
You think that Anthony Joshua becomes as big a star as he could potentially be without ever fighting in the United States?
I don't think it really matters. It's a box to tick. That's what it is. If you have the right partners, then that's not a problem. If you have the right broadcast media partners, corporate sponsors, you can become a star anywhere. Show me a star in America right now.
Yeah, right now. But over the course of history, people have Mexicans, even British fighters. Every fighter that's big from any other country got big in America, and that's how they became global stars.
It wasn't what it was. You know, Ricky Hatton became big in his fights with Mayweather and Pacquiao, but the British boxing was nowhere near where it is now when Ricky Hatton was fighting. He had the crowds, but the game was different. Trust me, all the foreign fighters, they want to make their name here. Why do you think you got Gervonta Davis fighting over here? He shouldn't be fighting over here.
For the money. No, but the stardom is there, no?
No. Stardom, you can't eat stardom. Yeah?
I don't disagree.
So stardom's something that sometimes exists, sometimes doesn't exist. At the end of the day, the right media partners, the right corporate sponsors, you can become a star anywhere. I do agree, America is a market that we would love to tick that box. But for us, Anthony Joshua is doing just fine in the UK. So we're happy to do our thing here as well.
Do you lure Deontay Wilder here?
He'd come tomorrow. No, he has no problem coming to UK. He knows right now, if that fight's not on the pay-per-view in the States, that fight, he can't make big money in the States in that fight. Do it here, he makes a lot of money. He knows that, and he's happy to do that. Don't worry about that. They know what I paid Charles Martin. They've got the same advisor.
What do you consider the toughest challenge for Joshua? Would it be Klitschko or Wilder?
Klitschko. And I rate Wilder, I really do. I just think it's the experience factor. You know, with Wilder and Joshua, you got two young, fast heavyweights. They're kind of like, not like for like, but you know, the styles. Klitschko's a different dimension. It's the experience, you know, it's the brain, it's the wisdom, it's all these different things, and that's why I think it's a tougher fight.
You've got a big stable, you've got a lot of stars. Kell Brook, I was here just recently to see him face Triple G. It was a stunning fight. I thought he did well. Took some punishment though, almost got permanently injured. Now he's going into this Errol Spence fight, which I think at the moment's flying under the radar, but we're going to do our best to let people know.
Saturday will be all right. Yeah.
I think that's a hell of a matchup.
Great fight.
Do you think the Triple G fight helped, hurt, or is it an indifference type of impact on Brook's ability?
You never want to get stopped in a fight, or you never want to damage your cheekbone, but that's boxing. It's like, you know, you wouldn't have had a box office fight selling 26,000 tickets without the Triple G fight. So in that respect, it's helped him a lot, profile-wise. And he was at a stage really at 147 pound where no one really wanted to box him. Everyone knows he's really good, and I don't think that's disputed. But he hasn't got the profile, or sorry, didn't before the Triple G fight, didn't have the profile that these guys would say, yeah, Brook. You know, we spoke to Cotto. Why, if you were Miguel Cotto, why would you fight Kell Brook, especially pre-GGG? You know, so we took that fight because one, he's a huge welterweight, and two, because that fight would give him the profile, and three, because honestly we thought we had a chance in the fight. And I think that it's done him no harm, but what he has got to do now is jump into a very, very tough fight with an excellent welterweight. So he's gone from Gennady Golovkin to Errol Spence. It's a very, very tough combination.
Now, for his victory, a lot of people who are critical of Triple G feel that on the heels of the Brook fight, and now having seen him against Jacobs in a very, very close fight, that maybe Triple G, and this is one of the words that people like to use, but exposed. Do you feel like Triple G is slipping or has been exposed in any way, and is Brook the catalyst for people seeing the flaws in Triple G's game that can be exposed?
No, I just think that Triple G, you know, was in a fight with a very good fighter in Kell Brook, and a very good fighter in Daniel Jacobs. And I think he wasn't quite on his game against Daniel Jacobs, and therefore he won a close fight. I think it's good news for boxing, because I think people like Canelo and Golden Boy now look at that and go, oh, actually. And I got to say, before that fight, I thought Golovkin beats Canelo comfortably. Now I'm not so sure. So it's good news for that fight, because I want to see that fight. That fight needs to get made for the good of boxing. So I don't think, certainly Golovkin's not been exposed because he's an excellent fighter. I just think he might have had a substandard but below par performance against Daniel Jacobs, who was very good on the night as well. And sometimes you're not always 1,000,000%.
And lastly, I will let you go. When we hear Eubank out there still calling out Triple G, I brought it up to the Triple G camp, and they seem, or at least they say, oh yeah, no, we'd still be interested. And so, what's your relationship now? Is that a fight that you're even interested in having something to do with?
No, they don't want that fight. You know, I think people realise, you know, what those guys are all about by the opponents they're picking. But no, you know, like I said earlier, going back to Joshua, you don't want to ever let your fighter get slowed down by time wasters or politics or, you know, injuries or so anything that's going to hold you back, like negotiations with someone like that. It's, you know, you want to brush it to the side. So that's what we did, and that's what, you know, Triple G did. We've got a great relationship with those guys as well, and I'm almost certain that he'll end up fighting Canelo in September.
I mean, Eubank's a talent. Is there any is there any opportunity or possibility of putting that relationship on the men? Could you see yourself promoting him again?
No, not while the father's involved. It's just too brutal, and you know, he's holding him back so badly. I feel sorry for Chris Eubank Jr. because he is a talent, and I could make him a superstar, but he's not. He's miles away from being a success in that realm, in that area. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Never say never, but for now, we got a great business. I don't really want to go to bed at night banging my head on a wall, which I did several times while we were in that relationship.
Well, a lot of heads are going to get banged on Saturday night. We've got a tremendous heavyweight championship bout, many titles on the line. Thank you for bringing that to Wembley and giving me an opportunity to come here. We will see you in the States, I'm sure. Radio Raheem with Eddie Hearn.